Barb Van Sumeren, and we're having a remote care conversation with experts at MD Revolution. I have Jesse Craig from MDR here today. Jesse, you are Associate Director of Product Management for the software business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your role in the company and what kinds of key things that you are working on right now?
Yeah. So first off, Barb, thanks for having me. I've been in product over 10 years. I've been in the healthcare space around 7 of those years. Specifically at MD Revolution, I work alongside our product and development team to continue advancing and improving our platform. And main responsibility I carry is to be the voice of our SaaS customers, especially when it comes to product enhancements. And so I spend time strategizing, understanding their workflows, their KPIs, their unique use cases, and really just help them with their future goals and how to make that successful.
Great. So let me ask you this question. Jesse, your area is the RevCare platform, correct? And how does that work?
Yeah. So essentially, we have customers who respond very similarly to how we run our full service business, who want to use our platform and our software for their business. And so at its core, though, they're really the same because it's one platform that services all of it. So the main difference comes down to who's managing those services, billing, the clinical team, the enrollments, patient engagement, protocols, all those things were all just mentioned. And so on the full service side, we manage it, MDR, for or on behalf of, and we call it as an extension of your practice. And then on the SaaS side of the business, essentially they or the SaaS customer will manage it either for themselves, if they're an individual practice, or like us, they'll manage it for multiple accounts. And so they'll represent multiple that have the same needs, and they'll use our platform to do that. But at the core, they really have the same purpose because it's one platform.
Right, right. I would think it would be an advantage to have experience on both sides of that fence. Do you think that's an advantage?
I think it absolutely is. I think that the fact that, so in software, you call it dog fooding. And what that means is, or dog feeding is you're eating your own dog food. And it's kind of a funny / weird term, but it basically just means, how do you know it works? Well, we know it works because we also do it. We don't just tell you how to do it or you could do it. We actually do it. So the proof is in the fact that we run our services on our platform, and so can you.
Yeah, I think that's a huge value add, right? Because if you're teaching someone how to do it and you use it yourself, there's even more credibility for that group as well. What are some of the client profiles on the software side? Similar kinds of organizations, or are they different?
Yeah, they are similar, but I would say I put them into 3 buckets. And this is just kind of my own way of compartmentalizing. And the first bucket is really a practice that has their own team, maybe their own program for care management, and they're just looking for tools to grow. They might have multiple sites. They might just be one practice, might be one provider, a couple, but really it's one entity that's looking for tools to grow and take software that can help them grow there. The second bucket is what I call our enterprise bucket. That's really what we are as a full service, is we are doing care management programs on behalf of multiple clients. And so that bucket really is representing their own accounts. And maybe that is inclusive of multiple practices, multiple sites, even healthcare systems to run programs. Then the third bucket is really a kind of specialty bucket. And I compartmentalize this separately because even though it fits into one of the others, programmatically it does, but a lot of times they're looking for tools that can be configured uniquely outside of or on top of what we already do. And they want some crazy outcomes or care gaps that are outside of just the norm, or workflows that are pulling in different things that we haven't done before. And so I put them in a different bucket, even though really they belong in one of the other two, but because they have more complexity or more configurability, I kind of keep them as like a little bit of the fun group.
Yeah. In fact, when I've talked to some of the other folks at the company about program design, right? You may be coming up with something that's brand new that you want to create, or solving a challenge or something like that. Talk about that, because you actually do program design for somebody who may come to the site and say, oh, I'm really trying to do something absolutely new. How do you work with clients in that area?
Yeah, we just started. This is actually kind of a newer We started it this year in 2024. We started doing program design specific calls with those customers. And it has proven to be maybe the most valuable, in my opinion, the most valuable step in our process, because we're learning. It's really like pulling out, what is it you're trying to accomplish? What are your goals? How do you define success? What does your team look like? What is all these things? And we find out, because in the sales process, it's sales. I don't need to say anything else. It's sales. In the design side, we're really going, okay, rubber hits the road. What are you actually doing? Don't give me the sales pitch. Tell me what you're actually doing. And we really get a better understanding of their business and how they're trying to do things. And a lot of times they'll come to us with like, we've got this third-party app we want to integrate, or this crazy unique workflow, or we'd like to define our success for care gaps in a different way, or different things that come into the mix. And so they see our platform as a bedrock, which I think is great because it's something they can build on. And so we have that bedrock that says, from we call it RevConnect, where you can connect, whether it be devices or workflow tools or lifestyle devices, or even other applications, third-party applications, or calling software like a Five9 or things like that. Those are all things that integrate into our system. And so it's a bedrock that you can build on. And so we'll have companies come and they'll have these crazy ideas. They're like, yeah, we want to do this sleep device that tracks your sleep in the middle of the night and tells you to get up and go to the bathroom. And I'm listening and I'm going, why would I want that? I don't want to wake me up. Let me sleep. But they'll have all these things that really push outside of our normal peripheral and start to challenge in ways that we can be stretched out of our norms, which is great because it gives us that opportunity to investigate, scope the effort or the work. If it's like, yeah, this is worth our time because you're proving the value that it's worth your time, and you have maybe a population or a provider group you want to do it with, and then we help them find a solution that fits.
That's really the essence of software development, isn't it? Really, it's really solving a problem. Early in my career, I started a platform around practice management and that kind of thing. Knew nothing about software development, but I was trying to solve a problem for a business. And I knew we needed line of sight to certain things that we didn't have. And that's really the impetus for some of the creation that we did on that software side. So it really is about solving problems, whether it's closing care gaps or developing better outcomes for your patients, et cetera. I love that people are coming to you for this really co-creation, if you will, of some of these programs. Is there customization available? Now, I know this is sometimes a very controversial thought in software, but how much are you able to customize or create versus sticking within a certain standard?
Yes, you're right. Controversial is probably the right word. If you work in product software development long enough, you'll find that using the word customization will get you shot at faster than anything. We typically say configurability, because that's truly the right answer. Because if we were customizing, then we'd be building something new every time. And that's just not scalable. No company can do that. Amazon doesn't do that. Facebook doesn't do that. Nobody does that unless you got millions of dollars and want to go build it on your own. And that's great. But configurability is a great topic and a great opportunity to really help our customers, both on our SaaS side and on our full service side. We have everything from, you can configure tasks, workflows, escalation parameters, protocols. We have white labeling for our SaaS customers, where you can white label the patient application and branding and that marketing that goes out. It's outbound patient communications. There's login pages, marketing. There's also, even in our analytics and reporting, there's some configurability around the data that is available and how can I surface that to the best way that really uses my use cases to the best of the ability, and even going after care gap analysis and things like that. So that's just scratches the surface. But we really try and working with the team, understand their business, their workflows, the things they're trying to accomplish, and then how can we configure our system in ways that don't ruin the bedrock, that build on top of the bedrock, so that they can leverage it to be their business sitting on top of the platform and enable them to run it the way they want to.
When you think about what's it like to work with the MDR team, would you say we're a pretty buttoned up organization, or what would clients say about what it's like to work with us?
They would say it's amazing. We jump through all the hoops. We are the best people on the planet to work with. We're always available.
Well, you guys are really collaborative, right? And
Yes. Yeah, I would say, I think I can confidently say that our customers would say that we go above and beyond. We are collaborative and we try our best to do a lot of cross training so that we can cover each other because we're not a giant company. And not only do we run software for our SaaS customers, but we also run our own business, as we talked about earlier, for care management. And so we're a small company in that sense, in that, kind of sense, but we try and make sure that each of us, especially on the product implementation integration side, that we've got cross training down and that we each know enough of how to speak into if there's a problem or if there's a device that didn't get delivered or if there's an account issue or whatever it might be. Or if it's even, those are all kind of more of the problem side, issue side. But what if it's on the other side of like, hey, we've got this idea. We want to tease out this really cool concept. And it's like, great, let's get on a call. So there's both of those come up. Obviously, you're going to have them both. And so I think that our team works really well collaboratively. We cover each other. And everyone has strengths, of course. We're all strong in different areas, and that's good. If we all had the same strength, we wouldn't be a great team. And so I think that that's a benefit, is that we each have strengths. I also think there's a benefit, the fact that we're spread out. We're a distributed team across the whole country. And so we've got people in most time zones in the United States. I don't think it's all of them, but pretty close. And so we've got coverage pretty much any time of the day because we've got customers coast to coast. And so if we're not all just in one spot, only available at one time, we really try and cover all of that. And so I would think that our customers would be happy with us, but you never know.
How long does it take someone to get up and running from, say, contract signing to go live? What does that look like typically?
Yeah, because it will be a little different for SaaS than it will be for a full service. The answer will be slightly different because of the nuances. So for SaaS customers, it depends on how much we're integrating. So if it's a straightforward, we're just doing CCM, RPM, we've got a device company that we want to use that you're already integrated with, we've got an EMR you're already integrated with, that can be done in a handful of weeks, where we go from once the contract is signed. I can't speak to the contract side, but once the contract is signed, going through and doing those kickoff calls, going through and doing the design and training and all those things, we can be up and running in a couple of weeks. But once they start adding in like, ooh, we have this other device that you've never heard of and the CMR that somebody built in their garage basement, and then we have to kind of go, okay, hold on, pump the brakes. We got to scope those, and they can kind of draw out a little bit more. So it kind of depends on the complexity. But the simple answer is, if it's a straightforward care management program, we've done it in less than a week. And we don't usually suggest doing that because you feel kind of like you're fumbling along the way and trying to train behind the curve, but we have done it. But normally it's a handful of weeks. And I think full service is probably about the same.
So when it comes to complex or large scale operations, is there any tricks to how you bring those groups on? Or is it pretty much the same, whether it's a small multi-specialty clinic or a very, very large operation?
So at its core, it's the same at the core, because when it comes to using our platform and when it comes to, leveraging the numerous integrations or services and workflows, those are the same, whether it's a tiny business or whether you're growing a large hospital system. So from that perspective, we really did try and build our system. It's a task-based system that is purpose-built for scalability. And so it works great if you're a smaller customer that has a few staff and a few patients, and it works even better as you grow because you can continue to scale and add on kind of like Lego bricks as the company grows. And so from that perspective, it's the same. Now, obviously, when it comes to like training and whether you might have multiple EMRs if you're on a system that's, we've got an Epic and an Athena and a this and a that. And so there can be some complexities that start to really need to be teased out. And that's why we use Guide CX for all of our project management stuff to make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's. But I think really it comes down to, are we training one team that does everything, or maybe we're training the trainer? And a lot of times we'll do that, especially only in our SaaS environments, where we'll be training the trainer who is then going to train the team as the team grows and explodes out into scalability. So those are kind of the differences between how we would approach a smaller customer versus a massive system.
Yeah. I noticed that you guys have this RevConnect marketplace, which is very cool. When you're working with that, which is literally a vetted ecosystem of all your integrations and so forth, do clients make those choices ahead of time, or do they have in mind the integrations that they want ahead of time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, first off, yes, it's called RevConnect, as you mentioned. It's really an extension of what we've had for years. We've built on decade plus of integrations and EMRs and devices and things like that. And so with that experience, we'll go into, it's typically bubbled up in the sales process, especially if you're already on an EMR or if you're already running programs and you're looking to scale, you may already know what devices you want. But a lot of times they come and they say, hey, we're on an EMR, but we're not happy. Or we're on a device company, but we're not happy. Or we haven't used them in a while, or maybe never. All of those conversations can come up. And so we try and be middle ground of the playing field there, where we'll make suggestions and we'll listen and say, okay, what's your population look like? What are the things you're going after? Are you going after weight or blood pressure or glucose, or is Wi-Fi important to you? Or would you rather Bluetooth? Do you need to be cellular? Just start talking through some of those things and trying to understand, are you in a rural area? Are you in an urban area? Some of those things can really define or help kind of guide the best places. So sometimes, to answer your question, I guess directly, they'll come with ideas, or a lot of times they'll come with already, this is what we have. Maybe we call that baggage. And sometimes they'll come with like, we don't know. And so it's really all the way in between. And I think that's kind of one of the beautiful things about the agnostic platform that we have, is that we can take something and say, great, we can work with that device company. We already have we have integration to most of the larger ones. And if we don't, then great, we can go through the conversation of integrating them. Or if you're net new, then here's a few you can talk to. And, we're going to do our best to not play favorites. And that way we can let the ecosystem continue to grow. And it really allows us to continue to not only grow with our services and our devices, but also even new services like RTM is relatively new to us and to our ecosystem, but things like a pillbox or a pain management app that fall under that remote therapeutic. That's a little outside of what we've done traditionally in RPM and CCM, but our system can do it easily, very easily. It's already built that way. So those are things that bubble up, and we're happy to take those on as they come.
I would think that is an advantage because let's face it, you want your patients to have the most up-to-date devices at all times, right? And that changes because new devices get developed. And so new technologies are available, whether it's a pill technology or something else that you're working with. So you are okay with a change in the middle of the system? Like if you wanted to change devices, does that work as well?
So the short answer is yes, we are okay with it. And for the most part, customers stick with one device company. However, it's actually funny, as I even say that, I remember recently talking with Mike, who is my boss, about our customers' history, and almost every single one of them has changed device companies at least once in their career with us. And so even as I say it, it's like, well, I guess they don't. But our ecosystem is built so we have multiple customers, SaaS customers. Our full service department is different. But for our SaaS customers, we have multiple who have multiple device companies. So I don't suggest it. I suggest a cleaner single platform with devices, but you can certainly have multiple in there. Now, when we're talking about adding, and that's really more for RPM, when you're talking about adding something like RTM, well, those are specific. The RPM company, device companies, some of them offer a few, some don't. And so you have to go outside. Same with CGM. If you're talking about continuous glucose, there's some players, Dexcom, Freestyle Libre, that's all they do, mainly. And so those are outside of that RPM specific. We can add them on more like you would add on a lifestyle device, like a Apple Watch or a Garmin Fitbit or something like that. And so that's kind of the generic of the landscape.
So what happens once you go live?
Yeah, we leave. We're out. You're on your own. Have fun. It's kind of like when you go skiing for the first time. We just push them down the hill and say, good luck. Point your skis that way. No, of course not. So it's a little bit of a different answer for SaaS and for full service, although we offer the same amount of support. The support looks different. For our full service customers, we obviously support them through everything from engagement to onboarding, enrollment, billing and claims and all those kinds of things. And there's so much more of that. But from our SaaS side, because we're typically training a team how to use the software, there's a lot more complexity in understanding their workflows and then trying to regurgitate how to do them in our software. And so we will typically, what we love to ask those teams to do is, can we do a daily stand-up for 30 minutes or an hour every day for the first couple of weeks? And it's essentially an open invitation every day on the calendar. Myself and our lead trainer, Alicia, will usually be there. If you have questions, come to the open invite. It's like an open office door if you were in a building, right? Come and ask questions. If you don't, great, no problem, but it's available every day. And we do that for the first couple of weeks so that they feel supported, number one, but also because there's always stuff that bubbles up after you start using it, because you have all this concept in your head and here's what I think it's going to look like. And then when you start actually doing the work, you find, oh, I thought I could do it this way, but I really need to do it this way. And I'm going to change my workflow, or how do I do this task? Or can you remind me how to do ordering again? I can't remember, because there's a lot. And we have resources built into the platform. We have an FAQ section. We call it guide within the application that pops up on a separate screen. So you can search for how do I do this, or FAQ, most commonly things, especially around like engagement and devices and settings and creating tasks and enrollments and stuff like that. And so we really try and support the team, or if we're training the trainer, we support the trainer. So again, depending on the circumstance. And then we're always available. We cross-train as much as we can. And we have a ticketing system to be able to support each other, whether it's people are on vacation or whether it's I don't know the answer, I need to bring in the expert on that side of the particular question or whatever. And we try and really make sure that we have quick response. Even if it's I don't know the answer, let me get back to you, or let me have our development team look into it because there's potentially something at that level. We try and do our best at the open communication and being available. And I think that the best customers are the ones that are engaged. And I feel like if we're engaged and they're engaged, then we're going to have a great relationship. And if those two pieces start to fall apart, the relationship starts to fall apart a little bit.
When it comes to defining what success looks like, do you start that at the beginning of the design phase? And what must success look like at the beginning? Or do you iterate along the way with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It would be both. And I think that's just nature of business, if I'm being honest. We ask up front, and in that design phase, how do you define success? What are the metrics you're after, KPIs? What are the things that tell you that this is working? If it's billable codes, if it's minutes, if it's enrolled patients, if it's care gaps, whatever those things might be, it might be a multitude of those. A lot of times when I bring it up, they go, yeah, I want all of them. And I'm like, slow your roll. Like, pick a lane. Let's make sure we find you success. Yes, we want them all. And that's great. And I want to help you get there, but let's make sure we know what you want and you know what you want. And that evolves over time. So I think it comes back to that as we partner with a customer and they grow and they find, whether it be new services or new devices or new ways to interpret the data, or even as CMS comes out with new regulations and new ways you can bill or things you can bill on. We've got stuff coming up in this next year that's changing some of the billing rules. And so it's always a constant conversation of, okay, now what? How do we continue to re-up that question of what does success mean? And I think that for me, I try and treat it, because it's not my business, I'm supporting the SaaS customer's business, is there are no sacred cows. This table has no sacred cows on it. If there's something on here that was on here last year that you don't want on here again, please speak now or forever hold your peace. Let's go through it all and shop what doesn't work. Let's bring in things that do work, or ideas that do work, or things that are going to accomplish and get you better metrics or success, because those can change over time. Or maybe they don't change, but maybe they just evolve over time. And so we're constantly trying to make sure they have the support and really ability to be able to define that success and then help them find the answers if it's not obvious.
Right.
Or even sometimes we have some customers who come and say, what are some of the most common metrics you report against? We've had that conversation with quite a few customers. Those are great, because then we get to take that experience of, hey, we've done this well over a decade on our own as well. So kind of,
Right.
experts in our own, we are experts in our own right. Not kind of, we are experts in our own right. And so it's tough though, because a lot of our SaaS customers are competitors. They really are using our platform to go after the same business. And so sometimes sharing that information is delicate. And so I'm always trying to find that balance of like, I'm on your side. How can I support
Mhm.
you? I get you don't
Right.
want to bring me behind the curtain and tell me everything you do. I get that. But how can I
Yeah.
support you get what you need?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I think that's a great way to approach things. Plus, today in technology sharing, companies are partnering with competitors in ways that they never have before. And it really
Yep.
just is about you must really share because somebody has an expertise in a particular area. And I've seen
Yep.
that happen
Yep.
in technology now, though, more so than ever. One last question, I guess I'll ask you, which is any other best practices that you want to share?
Yeah, I think best practices, the one that comes to mind at the top of my mind is pretty much what I mentioned just a second ago around the engagement between the client and us as the provider of the platform. I
Yeah.
think that some of the best implementation, some of the fastest and some of the most just proficient and well articulated implementations were around how engaged both sides of the fence were. And that really is a best practice is the right
Yeah.
people. Obviously, we talked about this earlier. Who needs to be at the call? The right people need to be at the right calls. And that goes for anything. That's anything in life, right? Like the right people need to show up. They don't have to have all the answers. I think that's the thing we kind of put on ourselves is that I have to come with all the answers. And I hope I try and dispel that when we connect and when we go through things like our program design and kickoff is like, hey, look, if you don't know the answer, that's okay. We can figure this out together or you can get back to us. It's better to continue to be kind of open-handed and continue to be engaged and involved in the process. And that is just going to hands down create the best experience and the best relationship because that we say for our full service customers, we're an extension of your practice. Well, for our SaaS customers, we're an extension of your business. Whether you like it or not, you're using our platform, we are. And so
Yeah.
the more that we can be cohesively treated that way and on that same playing and platform and those playing grounds, then it's just going to make more sense. It's going to make more sense
Right.
for your business and you're going to feel more supported and we're going to be able to give you the best information and education and training and we grow together. All ships rise with the tide when it comes
Yeah.
to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's a rule in business too now. We don't always have to have every answer, right? But if we can figure it out together and we can have an open dialogue, I think that's what people are really looking for in collaboration. So,
Yep.
well, thanks for this remote care conversation today. I really appreciate you taking the time out and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, Barb.